Peter's Box. Life is for the living.
Hello, my name is Juliana Ama Kplorfia, and I'm the author of A Romance with Chronic Pain.
My name is Juliana.
Good morning, Peter.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
Nice
Finally.
Nice to meet you. So it's a pleasure meeting you. There are so many questions that I have concerning A Romance with Chronic Pain. That's why I'm here today to find out more about the book. So, when did you decide to publish your story?
I've always wanted to publish a story. I'm a very good writer. So I've been writing since I was young. And I have books I haven't published. I put all of them on hold to publish A Romance with Chronic Pain. I remember the very first book I had wanted to publish after SHS was titled A Pound of My Flesh.
Wow.
I think I should go back and publish it, but let's talk about A Romance with Chronic Pain. Yes. I decided to publish it when I got a diagnosis. So for two reasons. One was because I had made a promise to God that if I got a diagnosis, I wasn't going to kill myself any longer. I was going to tell my story to encourage others out there that there is hope after all. Then the other reason was that when I got a diagnosis and I was looking for inspiration from a survivor perspective, I didn't get much written by us. So I decided to be that voice.
I first saw the title and I saw the cover design. In my mind, when I saw the word romance, because I'm a lover boy, I was thinking, well, was she feeling pain in her romantic relationship or is something else? So it's good to hear you clarify. So it means that it's actually a medical related issue that you battled with. That is why it's called A Romance with Chronic Pain. Am I correct?
Yes, it's a chronic pain issue. So I have experienced chronic pain since I could remember. Long before I knew the meaning of pain. And so it's a difficult story to tell. And I didn't want the reader to find it too difficult to read. So I decided to create an analogy around it. So we are still telling the story of pain, but we are telling it from a perspective of love, from a perspective of a romance with like an abusive partner that gives you romance in 1 minute, the next second they're abusing you, the next minute they are messing up with your brain, the next minute. So you are in between, you are in a tussle of should I leave, should I stay? Because the next minute you are nice, you're okay, everything is okay. The next minute pain triggers, which is like the abuse attack. And then you are like, okay, there we go again and you're back. So it gives the reader a breather between the hard facts about dealing with chronic pain and the soft side of the relief that the pain sufferer gets in between the journey.
How long did it take you to publish this?
It took about 2 years to write. Actually, I wanted support to write because I was sick at the time I was writing, because I wanted to keep my word to God. So I started writing I think a few days after surgery when I was in rehab. Yeah. So a gentleman called Delasi Dobe, I got him involved as a coach. So he will come, we will sit down, I'll tell the story, he will write it, sometimes he will record it. Then when I got better, I realized that even though he wrote what I had said on tape, the language was not what, because I'm a writer myself, it wasn't the language I wanted. So I had to rewrite everything. So it took a long time. I would have published it earlier if I just went with the support my coach gave. But then I wanted my voice. So it took a while.
Okay. This book looks like a memoir of some sort because it's quite personalized. And I'm wondering if your style is the memoir type, or you have different genres that you can write in. Do you only write about inspirational stories based on your personal experiences, or you also write about other stuff?
The book that I would have published when I turned 40 last year was titled Elikindra, A Powerful Girl. It wasn't about me, it was fiction. I wanted to create an imaginary girl for girls to look up to. And that was a response to Girls Excellence Movement outreaches that we do. And we ask the girls when we are collecting data, do you have a role model? They mention a role model, they mention their career aspiration, and there's a gap. So I was thinking they needed a model. So I wanted to create a model for them. So I created that character. And I put it on hold. It may come out very soon. So I write fiction and I write my personal story as well. The book I was calling A Pound of My Flesh was about an SHS. It's me, but the SHS experience of a poor girl struggling to get their needs met and then asking for help, and how those kind of help, the people that are approached for help also come with strings attached and make demands. And the demands are what I was calling A Pound of My Flesh.
Where do you get the ideas to write your books? For example, the way you're thinking about A Pound of Flesh and it related to certain experiences that you have, it looks more motivational because it's related to what you do. But how do you get the ideas? Do you get it maybe through meditation, or do you get it through daily conversations with friends and it pricks your mind, oh, I think this will make a good story? How do you go about consolidating your ideas to bring it into a book?
That's a tough one, Peter. I haven't thought about it before. I think that pain, because I have dealt with pain since I was a kid, and it made me not to have friends. So I was lost in books as a child. So, and then I went to school and I did literature and I read English in university. So it comes to me. I just don't know how, because I haven't paid attention to the how before. But after your question now, I'm going to pay attention to the how.
When I look at the book design, I'm seeing a lady sitting at the beach with some flowers, and her bare back has some stitches over there. It's very visceral. It communicates pain. How do you come by this design? Why did you choose this particular design for this book?
Okay, so naturally, anytime I'm doing something, I want it to be me. I don't like taking things off the internet and then making it mine. So the cover concepts that were coming were things that you can Google and find. I wanted something that's mine. So I described, this was my back after surgery. Those are not stitches, they are staples, medical staples that are used to hold the stitches together so that they don't fall off. I have a picture like this, so I described it to a young guy, Michael. He's very, very, very good in illustration. So because we wanted it to be a romance, she has to have a romance in a way, so we put her in a red wrapper and then we put red roses all around her. So to the world, she's sitting on roses. And that is symbolic for how I looked outwardly when I was going through pain. I looked beautiful.
Absolutely.
I looked active. I looked healthy, but I wasn't healthy within. So like this, at a glance, you see someone sitting on roses. How beautiful. But she's staring at turmoil. You see that the sea in front of her is not calm.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's darkness all around the clouds that she's staring at.
Yes.
And then there are supposed to be some rays of hope in between the dark clouds.
Yeah.
So that concept was a concept of what I was feeling at the time.
The title, was this the main title you had, or you had to revise it before you arrived at this particular title?
We revised it once. It used to be My Romance with Chronic Pain. Then my forwarder suggested that let's just make it A, so that any other pain warrior out there could relate.
Summarize your book in less than 1 minute. Summarize it in less than, let me time you actually, I'll time you for this. Less than 1 minute, I want you to summarize.
Okay, so it's a book about, it's a true story of survival, love, and rediscovery. It's about dealing with darkness called pain that no one can see, but only you can feel it. It's about pain that makes you feel inadequate, makes you feel judged, and make you feel guilty for not living up to society's expectation, even though you look like you could. It's about experiences of how pain affects every aspect of the sufferer's life, from education to marriage to every aspect, childbirth, every aspect of the sufferer feels the pain. And then the hope of a diagnosis, the hope of treatment, and the hope of recovery. That's all the book is about.
I think this is the first time I'm really paying attention to the word pain as in it being chronic. Can you tell us a little bit about the pain? How does it come? In what form? And you saying it is chronic, does it mean you are born with it, or is because of a biological situation? Can you help us understand exactly what the pain means?
According to science, pain becomes chronic when it's pain that you have experienced between 3 to 6 months or more. So if you have a persistent pain in any aspect of your body and it has persisted for months to years, it's chronic. So chronic pain is that pain that the cause of it might have been treated and the pain is still there, or the cause is not known and the pain is there and you deal with it for long.
Oh.
Now, some people develop chronic pain as a result of an accident or a fall or something else, or maybe a chronic ailment like cancer and arthritis and those ones. Some people are born with it from the spine, where maybe they are born with a deformed spine, which as they grow, the pressure on the spine makes them feel pain. So different people feel chronic pain at different times in their life for different reasons. Some people have knee pain, some people have neck pain, some people have back pain. So depending on what their pain is. Most of the chronic ailments start with chronic pain. So it's a persistent pain the person keeps complaining about. My chest, my chest, my chest. Until someone gets a diagnosis that is accurate. And usually chronic pain is difficult to diagnose because the symptoms resemble different ailments. So it takes a while to pinpoint the particular one the particular victim is complaining about. And mostly too, because as a society we shroud pain in secrecy and we just discard it and tell the people feeling it to get over it, we do not explore pain enough to try to find the root cause of it. And during the research process for this book, I have come to realize that you cannot cure chronic pain until you find the root cause. Some pains are given by trauma. Until you cure the trauma, you can't cure the pain itself. Some are accidents. So you discover what is broken, you fix it, you fix the pain. But you have to investigate the pain. So first you have to acknowledge the pain exists. You have to embrace it. You have to investigate it. Then you discover the root. Then you solve before it ends. But we usually tend to tell the pain people, get over it, or take painkiller and get over it. The painkiller works as a stopgap for a period. Once it wears off, the pain returns. The person is back to square one. So they go to another hospital. The search continues and it continues, and a never-ending situation. Now, in such severe and consistent pain, the person then starts looking for a cure or relief, no matter how. So sometimes we develop unhealthy coping mechanisms just to stop the pain, just to feel normal, just to live without pain for a period. So people become addicted to painkillers. Some people go to a step further to become addicted to opioids. Some people become addicted to alcohol because alcohol takes their mind off the pain for a period. And then it comes back, but at least they appreciate that period that there has been no pain. So this is the little I can say about pain. Pain is real. It's not only happening in the person's head. Sometimes when medical professionals get to the wall, where they've tried a few diagnostic examinations and didn't get a root cause, they start thinking it's in the person's head. So they ask questions like, don't you think it's only happening in your head? Take your mind off it, you will be fine. It doesn't happen like that.
You mentioned some examples of the causes like trauma and accident. How did you discover yours? How were you able to investigate and get to the bottom of the pain?
I never discovered pain. Pain discovered me. Pain just chose to marry me.
Just like that?
Yes. So in a chapter in the book I call Born Trapped, I was born with a condition called clubfoot. So initially I thought the clubfoot was the reason for the pain.
Okay.
When I discovered that story along my growing ages, I said, oh, that's why. Then I started reading, and science is saying that it's not common for the clubfoot to be a cause of your pain. So I started searching again. So my real pain is called congenital spinal stenosis.
That's a mouthful.
Yes. And I was born with it. But as to why, I don't know.
So at what point did you start feeling, if you are born with it, then I suppose when you were young, you were feeling the pain,
Yes.
or it was later on?
No, I was feeling pain. But it intensifies as you age.
Okay.
So I was feeling pain since I was a child. I couldn't play the armpit the right way. Skipping rope till today, I don't know how to do it.
Did it make you feel depressed in any way?
Yes. I felt depressed as a child, but I didn't know it was depression until I grew up. But when I grew up and I felt depressed between 2019 and 2021, I was depressed, seriously depressed. And I got to know when I made a call to a therapist, and I had wanted to die. So I was doing everything possible to make sure I die. But I wanted to die honorably in a way that before people would detect it was suicide, they would have cried for me small. And you know, in Ghana, when we hear about suicide, we tend to insult the victim. But the pit in which they were is dark and deep. And so in that dark, deep hole, they assume dying is the only way. Their pain, their loss, their despair is magnified to them. So at that moment, it makes sense to them to die. But for us who haven't been in that situation before, when we hear of such stories, even the attempted who didn't die, we tease them. We call them names. So because of that, most people when they attempt suicide want to succeed. Because they don't want to live when they attempt and fail and face society shaming them and judging them and condemning them instead of embracing them. So I knew this. So I wanted to die in a way that by the time you guys will start insulting me, hello, and saying that we thought she should have known better, I would have been gone. Then something asked me to call someone I knew who was a therapist. So I called Auntie Josephine and she spoke to me nicely. And I was like, okay, I didn't want to die after all. I just wanted the pain to end. And since there was no end to the pain, I was thinking dying will mean an end to the pain. So most people who have succeeded in killing themselves, they didn't really want to die. They just wanted an end to whatever was driving them to that pit.
This is interesting because knowing you from afar, you are always carrying this big smile. I also know you are the founder of Girl Sellers Movement, correct? Which helps young women with career, with life, and other things. So it doesn't come across as if you would be in that position. Where do you get the strength to do all the humanitarian works that you do? Because if you were experiencing pain and you were depressed, you wanted to kill yourself, how are you able to now form a group that is actually helping people? How does it work?
So as a child, when I couldn't do the things my peers were doing and they called me names and I didn't have friends and I had to go and build my friendship with boys and be like, I never dressed like a tomboy, but I behaved like them because they never judged me. I got to a point where I started seeing myself as special.
Okay.
So I started believing that if you were born with difficulties, it means that God had an assignment for you that you needed to accomplish. So in that childish mind of seeing myself special, I had hope. So I walk about with so much smile. I come to you with so much energy. Then Girls Excellence Movement was because growing up, I saw girls who couldn't speak for themselves, especially when they came to my father's palace to defend pregnancy or to prove that a certain guy was responsible for their pregnancy, and the guy is saying it's not me. And I saw they couldn't speak for themselves. So I told myself, okay, if I'm special and I'm looking for what to do as the assignment, this must be the assignment, speaking for girls. So I started speaking for girls at a very young age. And then GEM grew out of that. Now GEM, I would say, is, aside my children, GEM is one of the reasons that I never committed the suicide or I never succeeded. Because I go to outreach, I see girls going through things, I hear their stories. They come and hug me and say, Julia, I want to be like you. In my head, I'm like, then if I die, I'll let this one down. So GEM was an outlet for me, and it was a safe haven. So most times I don't miss the outreach. I will load up on painkiller, the best and the most potent on the market. I'll load up on Engo. When I come back, I'll come and suffer for it, sometimes 3 days. And it's a known fact in the GEM fraternity. They laugh at me all the time. They say, look at her, she's jumping around. She'll go home and peme, and we laugh about it. So,
interesting.
Yeah. I actually even went to one outreach with pillows at my back. Yeah, I will go. I will prefer to go.
It's really a romance with chronic pain.
Yeah, and it's another thing about people dealing with chronic pain. Getting involved in something bigger than them is hope. And in a way, it's a painkiller. So in the book, I talk about how ambition is a painkiller. Love is a painkiller. Acceptance is a painkiller. So ambition becomes a painkiller because it gives you something bigger to think about, and which pushes the thought of the pain to the background. The pain doesn't reduce, it doesn't stop, but you have something better to achieve, so you are dragging the pain along. So GEM served that purpose for me. Every single outreach gave me hope that you'll be fine one day. At least you are being useful. That period they go on outreach, if they left me at home alone and say you are sick, be home, I'll be more sick by the time they return. But being on the outreach gives me hope, gives me life, so I keep going.
Just as you are giving people hope, you are giving young girls hope, did you come across any book that inspired your journey throughout the romance with chronic pain? Did you chance on certain books or certain artists that helped you also probably understand your condition or help subside the pain a bit?
I chanced on books, but they were not books I could relate to that much, especially because they were not written by us. By us, I mean Africans, with the African climate, with the African condition, with the African structure, everything. But I found books written by Black Americans living abroad or whites, and their dynamics are different, their medical systems are different. So even though I read them, I wouldn't say they inspired me. What really inspired me was real life stories shared by people on the Spine Nation, people on the Spine Health. So the Spine Nation and Spine Health are spine pain and chronic pain warriors gathering on Facebook. And it's a page that people share real life stories, no shaming, only support and compassion. And they shared raw stories. So I could read and I'm like, okay, so for instance, throughout the search for treatment after the diagnosis. Now, spinal canal stenosis can also be caused by old age.
Okay.
So people in their 80s and above have it. And when you go to the hospital most of the time and you are in the queue for that, you find most adults. And I used to feel terrible that I was too young to have this. Why am I having an ailment meant for old people? you know. So reading the real life stories, one day I came across a 23-year-old. Mind you, I was 38 at this point, and calling myself too young to have this experience. Then a 23-year-old came to share her story, and she had discovered her pain when she was 7. I discovered my pain about 5 years when I was 5, if I could remember. But from 7 upwards was when I knew what it was, but I couldn't call it pain because at that time I didn't understand the concept of pain. I just knew I wasn't normal. I wasn't as strong as them. So anytime I'm to be pushed to do anything they were doing, I cringed and then I backed off because I need to protect. The body has that instinct to protect itself. So when this 23-year-old girl who started suffering from the age of 7 shared her story, I read it and I'm like, okay. So I responded and told her, whoa, you've given me hope that I'm not alone, that I'm not cursed after all. And then more young people came to write, and 2 parents came to write about their 11-year-old child. I was like, okay, I'm not alone. And it felt like a heavy burden had been lifted off my shoulders. The knowledge that I wasn't alone gave me some upliftment. So I wouldn't say a book inspired me that much, but the real life stories did.
I also know you love God from you making a promise to God. That it means that you're in good stance with God. Did you feel at any point that God had dejected you because you were feeling the pain? Did you have those thoughts?
Yeah. I wrote in the book about how it's okay to, as a Christian or as a child of God or as a spiritualist, to oscillate between faith and despair. It's okay. The Christian world sometimes judges people when they oscillate towards despair, as if because you are a Christian, you are insulated from despair. So we tend to shield and bottle up our despair until it's too late. I am an advocate for vulnerability. So as a Christian, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel dejected. Even our parents, sometimes when they discipline us, we call that discipline dejection. We are like, mommy must have hated me to do this. And later we are like, oh, she was just correcting me. So there were times that I felt like God had dejected me. There were times I felt that God has delayed, especially during the period where I was trying to gather money for the surgery or for the treatment. And the amount they brought was so huge I couldn't afford. And at this point, I had spent a lot, and I'm a civil servant. So you can Google civil servant salary in Ghana, and you can tell yourself what that means. So it was difficult, and then people came with ideas like, let's go and do GoFundMe, and I could picture loudmouth feminists like me, Facebook, they will see GoFundMe, and then I could imagine, my imagination started running wild as to the things people would write. This loudmouth, don't give anything, and it scared the hell out of me, and I'm like, no to GoFundMe, hello. If you must go for GoFundMe, go for it. There are much more compassionate souls out there than the evil ones. So whatever the evil ones will say, ignore and focus on what the compassionate ones will give you. And together we can all support you to get the healing that you need. So don't be like me. That is why I suffered it, so I can share for you not to suffer it. Back to the story, and I rejected the GoFundMe because I was prejudiced. At the time, I didn't know any better. Now I know better, and I know that there are far more compassionate people out there than there are evil ones. So that journey, I had to come to an agreement with God to raise the funds for me without me going for GoFundMe. And God was not doing it fast, in my estimation. So I started trying to sell my personal belongings. I remember putting my 4-wheel drive up for sale.
Got to that point.
Yeah, I was putting my 4-wheel drive up for sale, and it's as if the people could sense the desperation. So the value of the car and the amount people were offering, like I was like, can they sense my desperation? I decided to go for a loan. I got the loan. It was still not up. And then finally God brought the solution, which was the chief of staff deciding that I want to fund the whole surgery. But then I still needed money to take care of post-surgery. So that's what the loan came in for, and support from family and friends and my personal savings came in to do. Now, during that period, I went between God will do it to God, I don't even care anymore. I went between God, you love me so much, to God, you hated me so much to give me pain as a child. Around that time, people who thought the pain just came said that because I had gone to NYU and returned to work, someone had put something juju on my desk or on my chair, and I sat on it unknowingly. And there were indeed pastors who were referred to me who came claiming they saw that there was juju on my chair and I sat on it unknowingly. I didn't pray enough and I sat on it. I did not believe any of them, but in days that I'm in a dark place, I tend to process. Could it be possible? Then I go to God and ask why. If it's possible, you say you are all knowing. You say you are omnipotent, and you sat there, gave me pain as a child, and you still allow someone to put something on my chair to sit on. What kind of a God are you? So I went through that with God. But thank God he is God. He's not human. So he doesn't judge the relationship we have with him the way humans would. I'm sure if I was talking to a mentor that way, they would have written me off. But God is not a mentor. He's God. So he just took his time and showed me that he was God. And I saw his hand through the process.
Let's try and dive deeper into your writing journey, because this is your very first book.
Mm-hmm.
How was the support from family and friends when you started writing? Because I'm sure maybe a few friends had an idea that you were going to write a book. How did they receive that information? Did they encourage you, or were they against the idea of publishing your personal story?
I remember when I reached out to the lassie that I wanted to write and I needed his help. When he came, I had done the structure from introduction to conclusion. The structure, set it up, done introduction. And then he was like, whoa, you're already ready for this book, let's go. So he brought some fire. It was during my rehab days. I was in rehab and doing nothing. And doing nothing meant that I would be processing pain. So I decided to write within that period. And then when we have appointment, the last would come and he would make sure that I'm supposed to do what I'm supposed to do. So he was of a very serious support. And then when I have a chapter to submit to him, I'll write the whole chapter when I came home. I'll write the whole chapter, send it to him, he will review, send it to the editor. Editor will review, they send it to me for my final approval. I'll end up rewriting again. My perfectionist mind will be like, let's put this literary effect there. I don't want it to be a raw journal. I want the person to have a flow and journey through it. And so we kept doing that. Then my friends were very helpful. There's a friend of mine called Juliana Ama Kplorfia. She's a literature teacher at one of the international schools. I called her and I said, sis, shall I have a manuscript? Would you mind reading through? She took it, she charged me nothing. She read through the whole document. At the time, it was about 380 pages. She read through the whole document and got back to me and said, this is a good story. Let me go back and read again and make some input. So she made the input, she called me back and said, oh, she wants her head of department to also look at it. So by the time I was done, this is the National Schools Literature Department, had reviewed this book like 4 times and given me feedback, which was very solid. And they didn't charge me a penny. And I'm very grateful. That's support and investment from friends. And I have Juliana Ama Kplorfia to thank for that. And then I have Mavis who will go to the heavens and back to make sure that whatever I had planned to do is achieved. So Mavis will read and put the dot and put the comma and say this is missing, A is missing here, you know, that kind of thing. Now my sister Belinda will read and get back to me and say, sis, this part you were too lenient on this person. This person, I saw this person deal with you badly. Why are you lenient? And I'm like, so that's the funny journey. It's been a very, very beautiful journey. Then I reached out to Nana Kwesijan Apenten. I think he's one of the founders of the Ghana Writers Association. I reached out to him on Facebook, and then I said I wanted him to be my editor. This time we have edited this book like 4 times. But my perfectionist mind is still thinking it needs some professional tag because it's my first book. I didn't want to come out and somebody would trash it and say, oh, I couldn't read it. I put it down. Ghanaian memoirs are terrible. That's what we hear in our reading cycles most of the time. We always trash Ghanaian memoirs. So I didn't want mine to be one of the ones we trashed. So I contacted Nana, and Nana graciously accepted. He reviewed the book and said, Julie, your book is good. And then I said, okay, I'm looking for a publisher. He said, well, let this publishing house, they hardly take young people, but I will recommend you. So he recommended me to DigiBooks. And then DigiBooks then became my publishers and Nana Pente my editor.
Throughout the process, how was your writing schedules like? Did you write at night? Did you write during your free times at work? How did you go about writing?
So during rehab, I wrote in between when there's no pain. So when the physiotherapist will come around, there's no writing because he messes me up. I called him evil person in the book, but it was evil for good. He will mess me up so I can't write. So we wrote when I'm okay. And the last he did the writing. I just did the talking at that time. Then when it was becoming a real book and I was now at home, I was writing chapters and sending to the lassie. That one, we had a writing schedule. I was supposed to send a chapter a week. So within the week, since I wasn't working yet and I'm still healing, I needed to get a chapter to him to review and send to his editor. So we were doing that. But then, along the journey when the book was supposed to be published and my perfectionist mind got in the way again, I reached out and said, I want us to put a hold on the book. So we put a hold on it and I slept on it for close to 6 months. Then I took it again and started writing afresh. That I was writing every night. I sit by it, review the old and rewrite.
Did it energize or exhaust you?
It energized me to rewrite. Then, after Nana Pente finished his overall editing, we had decided to plan launching ahead. Then one of the female voices that affects me so much is a voice that matters to me.
Can I guess? Can I guess the person?
You might not succeed, but do.
That's going to be Gifty Aunt?
Yeah, she matters to me. Her voice is very powerful. Her voice has always been, Ama, when is the book coming out? Girl, I'm waiting for the book. And she even gave me a chance to publish a chapter of the book in her book, When Strong Women Cry.
Oh, so a chapter of this is in Gifty Auntie's book?
Yes, When Strong Women Cry. Oh. Get a copy and read it. Very strong. And it was her way of encouraging me to hurry. Get the book out already, so mommy has been there. Mommy has been there in that way. But this voice I'm talking about, I hardly project on social media. Okay. And she read the book and said, Ama, I know you. I need your depth in this book. So she started punching holes. Very minute holes, but they were magnified to me because of what her voice represents in my head. So I put a hold on everything again and went to work. This time around, you will meet me there, sitting there 5 p.m. when I get back from work. When you wake up the next morning, you meet me there with my laptop.
All night?
Yeah. And I'll dress up and come to work as if nothing happened.
Did that contribute to the chronic pain you're feeling? Because
no. I had already been healed.
Okay.
I've gone through surgery, I have healed, I've come back to work. It contributes to fatigue, but not pain. Yes. But don't do it too much if you're out there. It may lead to pain triggers, and you and I know pain triggers are terrible.
What makes your writing unique?
If it's about my story, it's the vulnerability I put in it. If it's a fiction, it's the vulnerability I create for the character. Because in our side of the world, we think vulnerability is weakness. And I'm an advocate against that. The fact that we see vulnerability as a weakness, the reason most people are suffering about things they could have voiced out to somebody and get the relief and keep it moving. So because I'm an advocate for vulnerability, when I write, I make sure I am raw, the truth about me is in there. I believe that people learn better even from our mistakes than our shines. Because for shine, everyone's shine is out there. It is the mistakes that we hardly find because most people hardly share. So I believe in sharing from the raw point. So I will share about a little about divorce in this book. And divorce is something we hardly want to talk about. And I have been through 2 of those. I've been through a divorce that I initiated, and I've been through a divorce that the other person initiated. So I've seen the 2 sides of the sword. And I know how they both cut differently. So I talk about a bit of it and how that emotional pain contributes in magnifying the body pain at the same time. So I think the unique aspect of my writings, even the normal writings I do on Facebook, when I used to be active, I used to write a lot when I used to be active, and people were inspired by it. I get feedback a lot. The unique, what makes me stand out, like my niche area, is vulnerability, because people find strength in that. The people will tell you, you are so strong, you are so courageous, I need some of your courage to do this. It's me who I will leave a marriage and come and write on Facebook that I am single. Meanwhile, that's something most women will cover up, still wear the ring, still go to places and make it look like they have a husband. Why don't come on Facebook and write and do
Okay, so probably to your Prince Charming out there, are you single now?
I'm single.
Are you searching?
Not yet. Not searching yet. But you can shoot your shot. Who knows? You may convince me to start searching.
Okay.
So that I start from you.
All right. There's a phenomenon that authors usually experience. It's usually called writer's block, where there's a period in which you don't have that energy or that inspiration to be writing, just like you're writing from evening till morning. Do you believe in the concept of writer's block, where all your ideas are sort of cut out, you don't know what to put down? Have you experienced that? What do you think about that?
I know that some writers experience writer's block. I wouldn't call it writer's block, but there was a 6-month period where I never touched the book, where I took it and just left the manuscript like that, never touched it for 6 months. And I didn't call it writer's block because, you see, pain has taught me to look for the silver lining in everything around me, and it's dark. So I don't know when the thing is dark and I just see dark. I see dark and I see some light around it. So within that 6 months, I saw it like staying off the book and gaining more ideas. Because within that 6 months, I researched into the concept of chronic pain, how other people were dealing with it, how it affected other people. So I know that mine is not just unique, it's universal. Most people are dealing with it. So I refer to some of those research in the book to make the book a bit more rich. So that 6 months, even though I never touched the book, it wasn't that I lacked ideas. I chose to stay away from the book. Then I used the period equally to research. So I wouldn't call it writer's block. But when I was writing the fiction I told you about, and I gave it to one of my good friends to review, and she came back and made some comments about the character not being well developed, I went back to try to put her comment into action by redeveloping the character. That's when I would say I experienced writer block, because I couldn't give anything else to the character to meet what she was describing.
Okay.
Yes, I couldn't. I tried. I did everything possible. I couldn't give the character any other thing. Then I left it. Recently, after publishing this book, I went back and I was able to give the character so much. So that was when I realized, oh, I was having a writer's block at the time.
Okay.
Yes.
You seem to appreciate feedback from a lot of people. How important is book review to you?
It's very important to me because writing is literature, and what you perceive is different from what I perceive from the same piece we both read. What your takeaway might be will be different from what my takeaway might be. Sometimes your takeaway might even be deeper than what the author wrote. Mine might be shallow. Mine might just be exactly what the author wants me to get. So I really, from a literature perspective, knowing that once it's out of your hands, it's a product for everyone to review and take their piece from it, engage it. So I enjoy feedback a lot because it tells me that the person engaged the book. When someone comes back at me and said, "Oh, your book was all rosy. That was a fantastic book," I consider the person not having read the book.
Okay.
Because if you truly read it, you would have seen the fantastic, you would have maybe cried, you would have maybe felt sad, you would have maybe remembered a quote, you would have maybe disagreed with some decision I made and be like, "But why did you make that decision?"
Maybe that's what you're referring to as fantastic. What do you mean by fantastic is the good, the bad, and the ugly. Maybe that's
So
what
they should share it.
Okay.
So that someone else reading it or someone else is encouraged to go read it. But if you just say one block, the book is fantastic, you haven't said anything. It's like me telling you the Coke was fantastic. I haven't said anything.
Okay.
Maybe the orange flavor and the fizziness and the chilledness and the yellow paint it left on my lips made me feel good. I disagree with the bottle shape.
Okay.
So feedback matters to me a lot.
Okay.
In most of my work. But I'm learning now that you shouldn't really bother about feedback because it's your work and it is you. But I'm struggling to accept it as a first-time published author. I'm struggling to accept it because it's conflicting with my overall personal perception that feedback is solid. I may not agree if you come and say this whole book is trash. I'll still come at you and say you haven't engaged the book.
Okay.
Because if you had engaged it, it won't be entirely trash.
Okay. And have you ever reviewed the books of other authors?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you mention a few of those books?
They are usually foreign books that I read and I like, and I go to the page and I'll write. If it's Amazon, I'll go there and share what I think about it. So I do that a lot.
What are some
One of my favorite books is not about I have a memoir that I love as well. It is the memoir written by Sonia Sotomayor. She was the first colored and female Supreme Court judge of the US. And I really loved her memoir. I used to have it on the decks like this when I'm writing. Then I have a book written by one of my NYU, New York University alumni, and she wrote a book called Guts. And it's sharing her personal experience about having a problem. It was ulcer that went into a certain level that created her intestines busted, and she went through a lot of issues. So I read that one too, and I gave my feedback on it.
What's your preferred format? Do you like ebooks, audiobooks, or you prefer hard copy?
These days, I'm being torn between the two. If you had asked me this question before my book was published, I would have said hard copy all the way.
Okay.
But I've noticed that because I worked with the e-version most of the time when I was working on it, when I would send it for review and the person would read and send me back, it was the E. So I got used to reading the E as well, and it became convenient. Anytime I needed it, it was at my fingertip rather than carrying a heavy book. So now I am for both. I'm good with both. But if you really want me to engage the book, give me a hard copy because I'll be underlining. And if I get an aha moment, I'm jotting it down. If I get a moment I disagree with, I'm going to be, why this? Why not this?
Okay.
I'm going to be doing that in the book.
Amazing.
Yes.
I can't wait to read a romance with chronic pain.
Don't read, engage.
I can't wait to engage with a romance with chronic pain. Where do we get copies of your book if someone is interested?
Currently, we have copies in all Kingdom bookshops.
Kingdom bookshops?
Yes,
okay.
across Ghana, wherever you find Kingdom bookshop, you have a copy there. We have copies at the University of Ghana bookshop. We have copy on Amazon USA for those at that side of the world. Canada, US, Australia, you all can get from the other side. And Amazon UK For those in the UK, they can order from there. And so I think it's £16 for the Amazon UK and $20 for Amazon USA. And then you get it to be delivered to you, paperback.
Okay.
We haven't done Kindle yet. Currently, it's paperback.
Apart from today, when was the last time you had to market your book?
I have been bad at that, shame on me, because I was actively working when the book was launched and I came back to work. We launched the book on a Wednesday. Thursday I was at work. So I haven't been able to really market the book. But I have been on a few shows talking about the book, a few radio shows and TV shows and TV programs talking about the book, but I haven't marketed it yet. I'm hoping that when I get some days off from work, I'll dedicate that to marketing.
How has writing and publishing changed the way you see yourself? This being your very first book. After publishing it, let me first ask, when you finished the last sentence of the last chapter, how did you celebrate that moment?
I didn't celebrate because I was looking forward to it being accepted by the publishers and the publishing happening. So I didn't celebrate.
Okay.
I celebrated the evening when the launch was done. I hadn't even left. There was a backdrop of my photo and things. I stood there and started screaming. We did it!
I can feel the excitement.
Yeah. And everybody was thinking, is she okay? I'm like, I don't know. You don't know. Wow. Then when I got home, I knelt down and I told my biological father, who is in the ancestral world, I said, I put your name on the map.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I wrote the last sentence, I didn't celebrate. I celebrated the evening of the launch. Okay. Because the build up to the launch, there were a lot of disappointments, and so I was so afraid.
Yes, I remember you changed the dates.
Exactly, the dates changed twice, and venue changed on Tuesday when the event was Wednesday.
Yes, I remember.
And so I was afraid. So when it happened and it was successful, and I held the book. And I saw videos, like big people were walking out of the hall and leaving. So when they were at the cocktail, I didn't go to the cocktail. I stood by the banner and started screaming, we did it.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So now, how do you see yourself after publishing a book? How does it feel? How do you see yourself now?
It just feels like you've accomplished something. What next? What I've been feeling since after I did this celebration has been honest. That's why I've gone back to Elikindra.
Okay.
Because it was ready to go. But I've gone back to it and now I'm able to give the character more as Amazing Grace has suggested.
Okay, so you've mentioned a number of books that you are yet to publish. About how many are they?
3 so far.
3 so far.
Yes. Elikindra, the Powerful Girl, is yet to come out. Then A Pound of My Flesh is yet to come out. Then the Inspiration for Girls. So that's a book where I profile 21 women from different age range and different career sectors to share their stories, specifically tilted toward the needs of girls based on the research that GEM has conducted. So how did they deal with failure? Have they experienced failure before? How did they deal with it? Has somebody experienced sexual abuse before? How did they deal with it and still succeeded? So it's different aspects of the bits of things that are affecting girls now. And I want to put it in human form. A human living, successful, has experienced it before. And it did not stop them. It did not make them die. Even if they had at a point ideated suicide, it's okay to ideate it. Succeeding is where I have a problem. Don't commit it, because there is hope. So they will see hope in somebody who has experienced their problem, what they are calling a problem now, and the person has walked through it. So my focus is on the walkthrough, the raw walkthrough. So I gave them a questionnaire which they filled with their raw truth, which we are presenting to the girl. So she takes a book, 21 women, a book of inspiration. She takes it and there are 21 reflections of womanhood.
Okay.
in that book. Yes.
Did you write your books as standalones? For example, is Romance with a Chronic Pain related or linked more like in a series to Alekindra or?
No, not at all.
Yeah, completely
Alekindra was supposed to come out in 2020. At that time, I was still dealing with pain and hasn't even received a diagnosis yet. A Romance with Chronic Pain, the idea came in 2021 in February when my diagnosis was given. So I was like, okay, I promise God. So Alekindra, be on the back bench. Romance, come and let's go. A Pound of My Flesh was a book I started writing when I completed SHS in 2002. So that was when I was supposed to finish it. So they are standalone, they are not interlinked. Even though Amazing Grace suggested that we turn Alekindra into a series.
Okay.
I have wrapped my head around it and I don't know how to break it into the series. I'm not that technically inclined to breaking into series yet. And I haven't taken the pain to go learn it yet. So it's still going to be a book.
What advice would you give to your younger self before you published your first book?
My younger self before the first book.
Yeah.
Is the advice going to be related to writing?
Yes.
That she should feel free and tell her story.
Okay.
That your story is yours to tell. Any other person could tell your story, but it won't be as accurate as when you tell it. And again, I would say that she should tell her stories always from a point of power. Because when stories are told from a point of victimhood, it creates more victims. But when stories are told from a perspective of power, it empowers other victims to become powerful and heal. So once in a while, you may see me sharing a story about my life and shed a tear. But most of the time, you never see me crying over them. I've already cried. I've already triumphed. And I'm sharing and telling you that, hey, the crying days will be over for you too soon. So she should tell her story.
Okay.
Genuinely, vulnerably, raw, and from a point of truth and power.
What advice would you have for aspiring authors like myself, someone who is yet to publish a book? What would be your advice to such people who are listening to you now? They are thinking, oh, Juliana did it, I can also do it. What advice would you give them in terms of writing and book publishing?
That they can write. Hello, Peter, and every other person out there who is sitting on a story or is sitting on a book, is sitting on a manual that will guide someone else's life, is sitting on maybe a corporate book. Please write. We need more books. Who knows? You might think that your book may not add anything. It's your book that someone is waiting on to transition into the other world of greatness. So please write. Just write. Just pour it all out until all of it is out. You know, sometimes what we tend to do is that we want each chapter to be perfect before we move. Just write all the chapters as raw as and keep moving to all the chapters. Have a complete rough write-up. And then go back and start perfecting it. And make sure you get a very good editor. You can be the best of writers. Without a good editor, your book will go out and then you are not confident in it. So get a good editor and keep writing because we need more books. I know these days people make comments like, Ghanaians don't read. Ghanaians are reading. Especially when I was floating the pre-order link. People were telling me, Ghanaians don't read. You are telling them to pre-order. But people pre-ordered. Over 50 pre-orders. And like joke. They started asking for it after 1 week.
Wow.
Yeah, but we've pre-ordered, we are not getting the book. I'm like, oh, sorry. Wait for us to publish it first. Yeah. And when we publish, we deliver to every pre-order person. They paid. So we say Ghanaians don't read, but Ghanaians read.
Can you share something about yourself that your readers don't know yet? Maybe something that wasn't included in here.
Oh, there's a lot that's not in here. Yeah. Because this book is only giving an account of my life as it relates to pain.
Okay.
So
surprise us with something about Juliana Ama Kplorfia. One thing I know personally that you have a very big smile. So
and I can be smiling even while in pain.
yes,
It wasn't yesterday. Someone asked me that, but how is it that you're able to be smiling even when the environment around you is not
conducive?
Yes, then I said, smiling is like second nature to me. It's involuntary action now. It just comes because it's one thing that keeps me from going mad, kept me from going mad when I was younger and didn't understand what was going on with my body and didn't understand why people reacted the way they did to my body. So because of that, I smile. It doesn't matter what the situation is, the smile never fades.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And what people don't know is that I eat wache for breakfast. And it must be zongo wache. It must be pure original zongo wache.
Do you Google yourself sometimes? Do you go on Google and search for yourself?
I did that when I was in NYU.
Okay.
We had a class.
For the benefit of those who are not
New
familiar.
York University.
Okay.
When I was in New York University, there was a personal development class that was organized, and the lecturer or the speaker mentioned that once in a while you need to Google yourself because the internet doesn't forget. And the kind of things we put on Facebook, TikTok, and all these platforms that we think, oh, it's just out there, we are good to go. Sometimes that is what Google keeps as memory of you. And that is what people will see when they Google you. So it's good to Google yourself and see what the world knows about you or what the internet is holding in store as you. So I went to Google myself and then I saw things. They were not things that I didn't want to see. The speaker on that day also mentioned that you should put things out there that the future you will not be embarrassed to see when it is brought up in a debate. So I saw things that I wasn't, if it was brought up in a debate, I'll still be proud of them. So I saw that, oh, I only needed to add more photos because I remember at the time 2 photos appeared of me and other photos of people who were also called Juliana appeared when I clicked image. So I realized, oh, there need to be more photos of me out there. And so I post a lot of photos when I want to. So I Google myself.
Oh.
I learned to Google myself from that time. So once in a while, I do Google myself.
Oh.
And when the book went on Amazon, I deliberately went to Google myself and not the book to see if the book would show up in my name. Because I'm putting my father's name on the map. And I went to Google myself and the book came as some of the things that came up in my name. Oh. And Gem also came up in my name.
Can you describe yourself in just 3 words? If you were to pick 3 words out of the dictionary to describe Juliana. Who is Juliana?
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
Compassionate.
Compassionate.
Change maker.
Change maker.
Nothing breaks me.
Yeah.
It may knock me off balance a little. I'll come back to balance and smile at your face and get it done. It's
been an exhilarating interview with you, hearing your story. I was thinking I'm going to hear a lot of romance stories, but now I'm getting to understand the picture, and I can't wait to delve into your book and engage with your book.
Engage the concept. There was a portion I talked about what not to say to people dealing with pain. It's similar to what not to say to people dealing with grief. When we tell them it is well, God gives and God takes. It's nonsense. They don't want to hear that. It's not consoling as you may think. So in the same way, in the pain cycles, to tell someone, oh, but they say you were sick, but you don't look sick. Oh. To the person giving it, I understand that it's from a clean place, genuine. They don't mean it for evil. But to the pain person receiving it, it's like, I haven't suffered enough to earn your compassion. That's how we read, we hear it.
Okay.
We hear you haven't suffered enough. But to you, maybe you are trying to say the person is strong for not looking as sick as you thought. But to ask the person who is sick or who is in pain, we see it as I haven't suffered enough to earn your compassion. So those are some of the things I talked about.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot This interview is going to go on Peter's Box. And I don't know if you've heard of Peter's Box. Have you heard of Peter's Box?
I went to read about Peter's Box when Peter reached out to me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So I know a little about Peter's Box.
Peter's Box is a blog for sharing information on philosophy, on science, and do-it-yourself learning. Basically, anything that involves expanding your mental prowess. That's what I do on Peter's Box. So I'm also trying to get the stories of Ghanaian authors out there so people get to know of the works that they do. And it's also a very cool place to relax. Probably whilst you're writing your book, if you felt fatigued in any way, Peter's Box was a place to go to because you'll get to see and hear different kinds of stories and you are really going to love them. Trust me. It's a mixture of different stories, different ideologies. You learn about new things, you learn about how to use certain apps, you learn about how to do certain things, you get to understand those complicated philosophical topics. So anytime you're free, just go there and you find yourself a great read. It's been a pleasure having you, and thank you for this warm reception and this lovely interview. I can't wait for Lekendra and a pound of my flesh. And I wish you all the best in the writing journey. And I'm glad you've been able to get over your pain and you're also helping others experience the same. Thank you so much, Juliana. It's been a pleasure having you on Peter's Box.
Thank you so much for having me on Peter's Box. Hello. Keep watching,
subscribing,
reading, and engaging Peter's Box.
Thank you so much.
Peter's Box. Life is for the living.